Hello, and welcome to Tiffany Teach Tuesday. It's been a while since I've been on. I have had a very busy Black History Month, and a lot of things happened on Tuesday with the snow, with me having closings, and I haven't been able to broadcast with you at 1 p.m. I hate that I missed you, but I'm back for Woman History Month to share some gems with you about great women who have impacted the real estate industry during the Women History Month. And the person I selected this month, I'm going to give a backdrop about what has taken place in real estate over the course of the last 20 years and how she had a impact during the real estate crisis that we had in 2008. So at some point in the early 2000s, well, late 90s, early 2000s, during the Clinton, and it started in the Reagan's administration, but it took effect really during the Clinton administration, they allowed deregulation to occur in lending. And when that happened, it allowed a lot of lending institutions to be able to do things that they weren't legally able to do and help to safeguard our American dollars when we put into the bank. So let me explain where the money comes from when you're purchasing and getting loans. So there's a lot of different avenues in which funds are gathered to lend money. So in our savings and loan banks that crash during the real estate market, that's why you don't see a lot of savings and loan banks. Those industries, those banking institutions took the money from the savings of the people who put their money in the bank to save, and they use that money to make money. So they take your funds and lend it to other people and get interest off of your money. That's how the banks make money. They use our money to make other people money. And then they in turn give us a little profit off of the money that they've made. Well, because of the deregulation period, they allowed these savings and loan banks to take our funds and invest it into the stock market. Before, they weren't allowed to do that. So they began to be able to trade these funds at higher risk, right? So that's one thing. Then we have investors who trade on the open stock market into real estate. Those individuals are people like ourselves as well, American people, take their money and say, hey, I'm going to invest into this stock brokerage or this investment tool and put my money in there and allow them to lend it out to other people. So they did that. Well, they started lending out high risk loans. So back in the early 2000s, basically anybody can get a loan. They used to have loans called no doc loan, which document loans, which means you didn't have to present any documentation support that you really made this amount of money if you had a certain credit score. They did 100% financing. Prior to that deregulation, there was no such thing as 100% financing. You either had to put 10 to 20% down to purchase a home, period. And the reason they did that is to also make you have skin in the game. And that was not just for investment properties. That was for personal home ownership. You had to come up with the 10 to 20% down. There was no such thing as 100% financing, some as low as maybe 5% down, but you had to put a down payment. Now, with this 100% financing, let me explain to you how that works. Is 80% of the loan can either be a fixed or variable. Most people will go with fixed. A fixed loan means that your interest rate is set at the same amount throughout the entire term of the loan, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 30 years, the term of the loan. Then the 20% which is really a home equity line of credit that they finance for you, taking 20% of the equity of the home, and that typically is a variable interest rate. So they allowed you to take 20% of the equity you had that for the purchase of the home, and instead of putting the 20% down payment, you use that line of credit to finance that. So you financed your other 20%. Prior to, you had to bring 20% of your own money into the investment to purchase a home. But during the deregulation of the lending industry, they allowed you to finance that 20% of the lending that you should have brought your own personal funds to finance the home to the loan. So that was what they call an 80-20 split. Now they let everybody do this. They know this is a disaster ready to happen. They have bankrupt countries doing this market. So they do this. The banks, the wealthy banks, become even wealthier after this. Now, here's another caveat. Any loan that was a FHA loan, what is an FHA loan? FHA loan is the federal government saying, hey, if you lend these individuals this money and they default on it, we will pay you back what you lost. Now, watch this. The banks got the money back from the government for someone defaulting, and then they kept the property some of the time and put it back on the market and sold it and made more money off of it. So that's how the bailout worked. When they were saying, oh, they bailing out the government, bailing out the banks. Well, they did all of that. Now, some of the local level government the states were very, very upset by this because it really hurt their constituents. They were doing a lot of predatory lending where they were preying upon individuals who didn't know any better, taking their life savings. Their investment in a home was their life savings. Some people had that home so that they can retire off or put their kids through college. And these variable interest rates prohibit them from being able to refinance because the interest in the credit card industry went up, which means the interest on their monthly payments on their credit and other bills went up and made their debt to income ratio higher, where they made it sometimes impossible for them to refinance. Now in Illinois, it gets even better in Cook County because they came out with a bill called the Illinois House Bill 4050, which prohibited them. Well, it didn't prohibit them. It put constraints in place that made it difficult for banks and lending institutions to lend money to people in the Cook County community and the Black and brown communities. Right. Under the Obama administration, they changed that. Now, the woman in history that made a true impact in fighting these big banks and making them pay back some of the money that they won and received and stole from the American people was our Madam Vice President, Camilla Harris. So I'm going to give a backdrop about who she is and some about her, and then I'm going to tell you what she did to make this major impact. So Camilla Harris was born in Oakland, California, to an Asian and Jamaican descent parents. And she later went on to Howard University to study political science and economics. So she understands money. Not only does she understand the law, she understands money. And then she went to University of California, Hastings, to get her law degree. Now, after she graduated from law school, she decided to work for the government, public defender. I think she was a public, let me see what my notes say. She went on to be actually a general attorney. This is what she did her great work at. She passed the bar in June 1990, and she eventually became the first woman and the first African American, Asian American attorney general. And during her term as the attorney general, she fought the big banks. And when she was up against them with this lawsuit, the banks were willing to settle with all the states, giving them $2 billion for the loss that their constituents received during this real estate crisis. And she was like, no, that's not enough. $2 billion, that's nothing but Trump change to them because they made trillions of dollars off the backs of the American people. So she said no. So she got some pushback from her constituents about this. However, her understanding economics, understanding money, her understanding the effects that it caused to the people She ended up fighting them and getting $20 billion in reparation from the banks for their predatory lending and stealing the money from her people in California. And so I felt that that was a great impact, because regardless of what people believe or think, this really, really hurt our communities. This 2008, this deregulation of lending, allowing people to intentionally harm people to gain wealth. So for her to do that, I thought that that was great. And that was one of the things that made me look at her differently, because some of the other policies I'm not for, I'm against. But that there really gave me a different outlook on her and her ability to help us, especially people of color, to prosper in the wealth component through real estate. So I chose to honor her today for Women History Month during my Tiffany Teach Tuesday. Madam Vice President Camilla Harris, a HU alum, HU. So I am a proud Howard alum as well. So I hope that information that I shared with you about the predatory lending and the crash of the 2008 market give you a better insight. And we're back with, now they make you have 3.5% down payments to purchase a home. And I don't know if that will even stay around long, because, you know, right now, due to the state of the world, because of the pandemic, the COVID-19, we're going to experience some more home losses and some more bank foreclosures on properties. And I've found, being in this business for 20 years, that instead of the banks taking the loss, they put the pressure on the American people, or the people as a whole, because some other countries as well was affected by the banks' American foreclosure market. And we take the hit of revitalizing the economy and spending more. So again, let's give a shout out to our Madam Vice President, Camilla Harris. I wear my pearls to do that, and my Chucks. I got them on today. An honor for her doing my Tiffany Teach Tuesday. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you on Tuesday.